The news surrounding Black Ops 6 has been absolutely insane. From the entire multiplayer becoming leaked, all the way from Activision revealing Black Ops 6 Zombies. It has been an absolute flood of information, and I do not know where to begin, but we got to start somewhere, so let's start with those leaks. We're just going to kind of roll into it. I thought we could start off by talking about what the hell just happened over the last couple days with all the leaks. And then I've also kind of been stalking your Twitter a little bit, talking about some of the amazing arguments that we've seen in the zombies community about if you like gobble gums and hate Cold War for being easy, you're a hypocrite, and loadouts being amazing, and you're a cringe beta loser if you don't like them. So let's talk about the leaks first. What the hell do you think about it all? Because it was absolute chaos.
I like most of what I see, especially from the multiplayer front. It's hard to get a good grasp on it because it's like low quality gameplay on, I think it's like last gen or something. So it's very hard to tell if it's actually going to look good and the animations are going to be good. But just from like the gameplay mechanics, it's pretty much everything I wanted. Especially when it comes to like the time to kill. I like it when it's a bit slower. It looks similar to Cold War. I'm happy with that. The just movement looks solid. The maps, I mean, we've only seen a couple of them. They look good. The streaks look powerful. But there's still some stuff that we've already learned even before the leaks that I still don't like. I don't like that there's no looping streaks. I'm not a big fan of the gunsmith system for the most part, but I'm sure it could be just fine. But like, I don't know. It's so weird for me because there's not that much to this game that feels that much different than like most other Call of Duty multiplayers, which isn't really necessarily a bad thing. It's just,
sure,
I don't see this footage and go like, oh my God, this looks so different and new. It does look kind of what we're familiar with, which I'm mostly okay with because, I mean, I don't know, as long as it's good, I don't really care at the end of the day. But I do hope there's a little bit more in store for the full game that's at least going to change it up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything there. When I saw it, I was so worried about, basically my preconceived notion was, if this feels like Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3, or if it looks like it, I was like, what is this COD unified engine? And we saw obviously the reveal with Black Ops 6 at the Xbox showcase, and a lot of my concerns were removed because of the art style and stuff, and it does look like a Treyarch game. So like I finally feel like we have confirmation. This looks like a Treyarch game, this COD unified engine. While I'm sure there's going to be some annoying things about it, it looks like Treyarch. So I'm super stoked about that. I do have a question though. What's the problem with the whole looping score streaks thing? I'm not a big multiplayer guy. I feel like I die every 6 seconds, so I never could get my score streaks to loop anyway. What's the deal with that?
So looping streaks is essentially, for anyone who doesn't know, it's when you earn all of your streaks in the same life, you then can continue earning them again after you've earned all of them. So normally in like, I think Modern Warfare 3 was the first game to start this. Then it carried over to Black Ops 2 and onward up until, I think Black Ops 4 was the last one to allow this. Technically you could in Cold War, but that whole system's different, so it's kind of hard to compare. But so if you were to run like, let's say UAV, counter UAV, VSAT, and you earn all the way up to the VSAT, in those games, it would restart you back at the UAV after you earn the VSAT. So you can just keep looping through them as much as you can, as long as you're staying alive. But ever since Modern Warfare 2019, and it carried over into Vanguard and MW2, and it was like that in the new MW3, but they actually changed it later on, thankfully. They made it so once you earn that third streak, you're done for that entire life. So you can't earn those streaks again in that same life, basically making it so you just can't earn more streaks. Even if you're good enough to keep staying alive, even if you go on a 30, 40 kill streak, whatever, you're not earning those streaks again. Yes, you could earn the nuke, but there's a pretty big gap between that third streak and the nuke. So there's like this long period of time where you're not getting rewarded at all. And their reasoning for that is they're trying to prevent streak spam. I personally don't feel like streak spam is a big issue in Call of Duty. I've really never gotten into a lobby except for maybe on like shipment hardpoint or something. Sure, that's a little different. Most of the time, I don't really feel like there's that many streaks being called in any typical Call of Duty game. So if somebody is good enough to sit there and go on a long streak, they deserve to just keep going through those streaks. So the problem is, if you don't have looping, if I get that third streak, I want to just hold a grenade, blow myself up so I can earn that streak again. Because I like getting streaks. It's fun. It's the most enjoyable part of COD to me.
That's why MP is so, infectious.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I like I said, I'm not very good at MP. I like to play it every now and then, but I honestly, there's only 1 or 2 times I can remember from Black Ops 3 where that really happened, where I was like, holy shit, this sucks. But that's never been the majority of my experience. It's always been very, very minimal. So it's actually kind of surprising to hear that's going to be a change. But I mean, all in all, as far as the multiplayer looks, I'm pretty satisfied with it, because that what's the word I'm looking for? That's scalable over to zombies. The movement looks like it's going to work in zombies. The gunplay looks good. The sounds sound really good. Yep. The art design has that cartoony look. So I'm really, really happy that a lot of these systems are going to be coming over to zombies. A lot of this design is going to be coming over to zombies. But there are a couple of systems that are coming over to zombies that I know you're specifically not a fan of. And I think one of those systems is going to be loadouts. Yep. And so what's your kind of argument against why they're not good inside of zombies? Because I feel probably mostly the same with you, but I do have a point of contention. So let's dive in.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know exactly how they're going to be implemented. I do think there is a way to implement them properly, and I won't have a problem with it. It's just we have no idea at this current point. If it is just like Cold War, though, then I'm going to have a problem with it. And so basically the reasons I don't like it is because, well, there's a lot of reasons, and they kind of, these reasons I could talk about this for hours. But so I feel when you have a system like this where you are able to choose literally any gun in the game to start with, it is really, really unlikely that you are going to choose one of the weaker guns in the game. And regardless of them having this rarity system, there still is very clear choices for the best guns. I mean, I've tried them out myself. Like, there are very clear options for what guns are better than others. Even if you're talking like over time, like it still is going to be better to start with the Gallo than any pistol or SMG, because you could eventually level it up with the rarity system anyways, and you're going to have a solid gun that's going to last you to the end of the game. Whereas most of those other guns, like, yeah, most of the guns are viable in Cold War. They're just not nearly as good. And especially as an Easter egg player, yeah, I'm going to want the best options possible. So what ends up happening is you spawn with M16, Gallo, How, or whatever, and you're pretty much good to go for the rest of the game. Sometimes I'll hit the box for like a secondary weapon, but usually that secondary weapon is going to get taken up by the wonder weapon anyways, unless you get mule kick. But regardless, chances are I'm going to be keeping that loadout weapon, and that's the one I'm going to be getting all the way to the end for the rest of the game. But I feel like that takes away such a core part of progression in prior zombies modes, where you switch between different weapons as the game goes along because the guns have different purposes. Now, obviously, that only works if you also get the classic point system back, though, which I think is the biggest thing that people are kind of missing about this loadout argument. It's not just that people want to be able to spawn in with the pistol. They want to be able to spawn in with the pistol with the classic point system, possibly even with not having a rarity system at all, or at least changing how it works. Because if you just let us, like, let's say they make a separate, or let's say they don't have loadouts at all, and it's just you can start with the M1911, but you still have this new point system and rarities, it's not going to feel the same. It's just not, because you're not getting that feeling of, okay, this pistol, you shoot them in the leg, you knife them, you shoot them, you know how it is. You know how it was in Black Ops 3, Black Ops 2, all those games. It still isn't going to have that classic feel that most fans want. And I personally think it makes the overall just early round gameplay just feel better, because there's more of a progression there. Like what I would do mainly in Black Ops 1 and 2 more than anything, but you would buy a wall weapon. I would usually get the M14. Some people like the Olympia, but those weren't balanced that great, because obviously the M14 is a lot better. But that would be an actual choice you would make. You'd get that, or you would wait to the next room to get the next wall weapon, whether it's an SMG or whatever. And eventually you'd hit the box. But like, when do you ever get wall buys in Cold War? Like, I personally don't know the last time I've got a wall buy. Some people like to wait till a certain round when the rarity goes up on the wall buys and then they buy them. Sure. But I personally don't think I've ever purchased a wall buy, maybe more than a couple times in Cold War. because there's just no point. Like your weapons you start with are totally fine. Even when they're the gray rarity, they're still going to last you till at least like round 10 for the most part. Whereas the M1911 in prior games is not going to last you to round 10. It's not even going to last you to round like 5. You're going to need to pick up another gun. And that progression in weapons is kind of interesting to me. I like when weapons feel different. I like when there's some ones that are not so good, some that are better. I do like when pack-a-punching them, they all become useful, though. That is important. Yeah, like, I like when the guns unpacked have a huge variety and usefulness. Some of them suck so bad that you don't even want to bother using them, but some of them are pretty solid. But when you pack-a-punch them, they should all have some level of usefulness, which I do think Cold War did good in, so I'll give Cold War that. Like, yes, every single gun is viable, and that's, in theory, a good thing. It's just the execution of how you use them in loadouts and the rarity system.
Yeah.
It just makes the whole core progression in the early rounds just not as enjoyable for me. And it also takes away the personality of the guns, because most of those guns kind of blend together a bit. Like, what differences are there from some of those ARs and SMGs? They feel the same. I don't know. That's how I've felt ever since Cold War first came out.
Especially at the end of the DLC lifecycle with Cold War, I felt like that British gun that had like the built-in sight, and there was like 2 other guns. I felt like they all kind of felt the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I took a couple notes here. Sorry if you saw me like messing with stuff. I was getting a piece of paper to write some notes. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was wall buys. Like, yeah, you're right. I never buy wall buys. I think the only time I will ever really buy one is if I'm running by the plane and D-machine. Sometimes I buy the Gallo shotgun, but I rarely do that. So I just kind of buy it out of habit, because I used to do that at launch. It's like a habit. So, but it's not necessary. But I don't actually really buy wall buys at all in any of the games. Maybe if I'm going for a high round situation, I will buy one so I can get cheaper ammo constantly. Maybe I'll buy one. Yeah, it's really just for ammo replenishment. But ever since Black Ops 3, I felt like wall weapons were always kind of useless because the wonder weapons were so powerful. There was pretty good stuff in the box always, and then kind of transitioning. BO3 is probably the last time I really feel like wall weapons were super useful, because when you go to BO4, transitioning to BO4, they had a loadout system, but I never felt like it was impeding the progression system like Cold War did, because there wasn't the rarity aspect. You could spawn in with the Moog 12, or I think that's what it's called. You could spawn in with that shotgun and carry it with you all the way to boss fight, but it didn't really impede the progression in the same way that it does in Cold War. And I find that to be quite interesting. I haven't put my finger on exactly why that's the case. But I will also say that progression in Black Ops 4 is a lot faster. You know, you kind of just kill zombies, get your points, and you move on. Like, you can get to Pack-a-Punch, or sorry, not Pack-a-Punch. Yeah, Pack-a-Punch or Power or whatever, the Sentinel artifact. You can get to that by pretty much round 5, round 6 on any map with any weapon, with any loadout you choose.
Yep.
So I just want to like try to be consistent with my issues with the game, because it's weird, because a lot of the same problems I have with Cold War are in Black Ops 4, but they don't feel the same. And it's just interesting how that the execution of a certain idea, depending on the context of so many other factors, can really sway you one way or the other. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so like, I think what you're saying there, it makes sense, like the external factors, because I even was trying to mention that in my video today, where I talked about the point systems, or not the point system, the loadout system. And I do think the rest of the game around it matters a lot, because I was thinking of an example like Infinite Warfare. They have the Director's Cut mode, which I love. Director's Cut, it's, you know, a super strike reward where you spawn in with 25,000 points, all the perks, the weapons are immediately pack-a-punched. Like, it has all these things you get right off the bat. But somehow I still feel like when I'm playing in that mode, there are still things on the map to progress. There are still things to do. I don't feel like I'm ruining the core progression somehow, even though I'm spawning in with all this free stuff. Obviously, a big part of it's also the fact that it's a big reward to get. Like, you don't have it right off the bat. But still, like, I still enjoy myself quite a bit doing that. Whereas I just don't really feel like the way it's executed in Cold War, especially because you can get it right off the bat. And also, side note, the whole like Easter egg where you the super Easter egg where you get a purple rarity weapon to begin with. Correct me if I'm wrong. The only way to turn that off is to go on the Outbreak map zoo, right? And like go to the thing.
Yeah.
That's just a weird way to turn it off though. Like, why can't you just do that in the menus? Because like I've had times where I've wanted to turn it off, but I'm like, I don't want to play Outbreak and then just try to get zoo because it's not guaranteed, right? So I don't know.
There's like a mask Easter egg where you can find it depending on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then it'll spawn you to there directly after. But you still have
it's
to
still
play
unnecessary
at least one round.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like imagine if in a Warfare you had to like jump into a match just to turn off director's cut. I don't know. It's weird.
You had to beat Mephistopheles to turn it off.
It's a weird extra step. I don't get it. But yeah, like the game around it really matters. So even if they do the exact same loadout system in Black Ops 6 that they had in Cold War, if the game itself has a lot of things to progress, it's relatively difficult as well. Like if they make it harder than Cold War by default, it might not be a problem. I might not care in the end. It's possible. Yeah. But as it is currently, the way it is in Cold War, I don't like it.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say, and then if you have another comment on it, that's okay. But I also think that if you just look at the game from like a mathematical standpoint, the game is just object in hand, object projectile, shoot zombie, get point. Like that's the most reduced way you can look at it, right? Yeah. Item, shoot zombie, get point. And so, but basically what I'm trying to say here is like, I don't know if I necessarily care if I have a rock, a fist, a pistol, an RPG, if the damage output and the difficulty from the zombies is still giving me that same progression. So yeah, I think people will kind of fixate onto certain elements of zombies like it's a real life situation. And it's like, bro, these are just mechanics that can be shifted. They're like puzzle pieces that can fit in any type of way. So I remember playing a couple matches of Cold War when it first launched, and I spawned in with an M1911. I spawned in with a rifle. I tried a lot of different things. And as long as the damage output is low enough, it doesn't really matter to me. And kind of like what you were alluding to before with the fact that the point system is different. Killing a zombie is killing a zombie. So I guess it doesn't really matter what I use. So it's really, as long as that damage curve is set appropriately to where the output of my weapon isn't drastically overpowered because I picked an assault rifle, because I picked an RPG or whatever, then I'm not too worried about it. Yeah. But the other issue is like Cold War has so many other little things that stack up on each other. It's like Death of 1,000 paper cuts in reverse. Everything has like 5 tiers in the SMG, 5 tiers in the pistols, 5 tiers for every field upgrade, 5 tiers for this, 5 tiers for that. And then before you know it, you have you're like fully maxed out in your specs, and you can't ever turn that off like you can with Gobblegums, which is why I set that up, because I'm such a good host, bro. We're switching to Gobblegums. And that's because you're a shill, dude, and you can't play the game without Gobblegums. I'm just kidding. But yes, seriously, dude. Everybody online is saying if you hate Cold War systems, then you should, by proxy, hate Gobblegums, because they're obviously equal. Right?
Obviously, right?
So let's kind of break this down. That argument, in my opinion, is so ridiculous because, like I just said, you can't turn off the Cold War mechanics without buying another copy of the game and getting another account, or maybe if you have family share on Steam, I guess. But you literally need a new account to turn off all of those base factors. That was such a big L from Cold War. So I'm sure you have a lot to say on this, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, also Gobblegums are like completely limited use, at least by intention. Like, I know the way they work in Black Ops 3 because of the whole exploit with dashboarding, you can basically have unlimited of them. But by the actual intention of the design, you're not supposed to be popping Perkaholics every game. At least that's not what they intended. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Black Ops 4, they fixed that, so you can't dashboard to save them, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, you cannot.
You can't, right? So that's, I'm assuming Black Ops 6 is going to have that as well, where you're not going to be able to dashboard to save them. So by intention, you're not going to be able to use them every single game unless you throw millions of dollars into the game, which I don't think the average person is going to do that. And so they're not like these things where you can just use them every game. They're not, again, by intention. I know Black Ops 3, it's not like that, but by intention, you're not supposed to be using these things every game. So when they compare that to like the loadout system, or like you're talking about with the permanent upgrades, those are things that you can use every game, and in the permanent upgrades, you're literally forced to if you already upgraded them before. So that's very different than a Gobblegum, where it's kind of like a reward you just get every now and then. If you want to start a game with Perkaholic, that's fine, but you're not supposed to have that every single game. You're just not. Maybe when you do an Easter egg run and you know it's a challenging Easter egg, then you'll use it, which is usually how I use them in Black Ops 4 because of the fact that there's no dashboarding. I don't actually use megas that often in BO4, like almost at all. I use them in BO3 a bit more often, I'll admit, but BO4, like I rarely use mega elixirs. I'm practically always using classics unless I'm doing like Blood of the Dead or something, just a more difficult Easter egg. If I don't feel like dealing with the challenge that day, I'll pop I don't know, whatever Gobblegums they have in that game. So that's why I don't have a problem with Gobblegums by design. And as long as they're not like a gambling system or whatever in this next game, and which I don't think they will be, they're just something you can directly earn in game, I don't really see the issue, and I don't think that could ever be correlated to loadouts or the permanent upgrades, which, yeah, I have a whole nother amount of problems with the permanent upgrades that I think I probably dislike those even more than loadouts for sure, just because, like you said, you can't even if you wanted to, you can't turn them off. You can't just switch to using less. But to be honest, I've always thought of this, even if that was an option, I still don't think I'd like it, because like you're taking away all these pieces of progression that could be in game, and you're just eliminating them completely. So, and with Gobblegums, even if you don't use megas, at least you're still replacing them with something else. You're probably just using classics, which they're not OP at all. So they don't really break the game as much as megas do.
Well, consumables are designed to be just that. They're just designed to be consumed for a temporary buff. They are designed to enhance a particular segment of the gameplay loop. They're not designed to replace the gameplay loop. Yeah. And that's the core issue with Cold War's oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. That is the problem with Cold War's design language with the tier system, is it is baked into the mode. The game is meant to have 10 perks with 5 tiers each. The game is meant to have loadouts with a weapon rarity system. The game is meant to have an armor system. The game is meant to have all of these grinding mechanics so that you can basically, it's just like a grinding simulator. I talked about this in the last episode where I don't think COD Zombies should be a grinding simulator, but I'm not going to, shit on somebody who thinks that. I just disagree. Yeah. But like I said, so there's basically a segment of your time that the Gobblegum will help. So you have raindrops, it helps you right that instant. You have shopping free, it helps you for a minute. You have stock option, it helps you without reloading for how long, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. So there's kind of 2 levels to the Gobblegum, depending, or elixir, consumable, whatever you want to call it, depending on what you need. There's like the speed factor or the overpowered factor. So they can help you get into the late game quicker, or they can kind of help you overcome obstacles. So like raindrops or not raindrops, power vacuum will like help you in the high rounds by getting drops all the time and kind of speed you through those. So in a way it is kind of speeding up that as well. But basically their limited time usage it's not necessary. And the core game can still thrive without it, where if you take all of those Cold War factors away, all of the tier systems, all of the levels and the perks, you actually are suffering because of it. And it's not even that it's more difficult. It's just you're missing out on the fun that the game has. So for example, if I had Mule Kick, right? If I bought that perk and I could get a Gobblegum that was like, for the next 3 minutes, the Mule Kick perk will drop ammo pickups for you. Okay, that's cool. Well, that's just a temporary thing where I'm just getting my ammo replenished for the next couple minutes to help with a boss fight or to help with round 64 or whatever it is. And Black Ops 4 and Black Ops 3 did such a good job of balancing that with the OP versus the standard gameplay progression. And I think that's what the Cold War fans are missing, is they think Gobblegums equate to easy play. They can, but it's not a given. And I actually find in Black Ops 4 specifically, the Gobblegums don't really inhibit the progression, or sorry, the Elixirs don't inhibit the progression as much as they would like to think. Yeah, you might shave off a couple of rounds in an Easter egg, but for the most part, you're pretty much sticking on track with how the game is designed. So,
yeah, I actually like how Elixirs work. A lot of people hate them. I don't like the way you use them with the D-pad, but I think the fact that they're not nearly as OP as BO3, and again, because you can't get unlimited of them, I kind of like how they work better. Like, I don't know, they just, to me, they flow better. I know a lot of people hate them, but I don't mind them.
I just think Black Ops 4 was not meant to have the types of consumables that were in BO3. And you can actually see the progression of this in Treyarch's mindset is they wanted to remove the use for OP Gobblegum. So in BO4, they changed the point system. They changing the point system, it then changes the way that you need to buy doors and navigate through the map to get to certain areas. Whereas BO3, you had the classic point system, so you could either fail or, salvage points, which means that your progression was dependent upon yourself. And even with BO4, you had a perkaholic. I know this is probably a contrary opinion. I don't think a lot of people agree with me, but I think you had a perkaholic baked into the player. You had self revives, you had jug right away. You got speed cola when you got all 4 perks, and you got double tap when you had your gun fully packed, and then you got 4 extra perks. That's a perkaholic, in my opinion.
Pretty much.
They were trying to remove the need for some of those OP systems, and then they just eliminated them all in Cold War. But that could have been because of COVID and stuff like that. I don't know. We have yet to see.
Yep, there's a lot of things that I feel like we have to just wait for Black Ops 6 to come out to fully judge, Like, there's so many different topics and zombies that we just need this game to fully be out before I feel like I can fully judge, like, modern zombies. Because like you said, Cold War there's so many external factors for that game. It's hard to tell what was an intentional design choice and what just happened because of, the pandemic and all that.
Is there anything that you've heard, leaks or otherwise, or I don't know, anything that you're like, I really need this to be in Black Ops 6 for me to love it, or I'm kind of open to seeing what happens? Like, what's your gut telling you, or what is something you really desire?
There was one thing I heard, and I don't know if it was actually like a leak or speculation, but it was someone saying that Terminus is meant to be they use the word complex. They use the word a complex map. And then they said Liberty Falls is meant to be the more simplistic one. But I don't really know the truth behind any of that. I want to see some level of complexity on any map, whether it's one map or 2 maps, whatever. At least like on the level of Black Ops 3, hopefully even Black Ops 4. Because, I do feel like this mode needs some more depth to it. And yeah, you could just, like, more content doesn't necessarily equal more depth, which I hope is not what they end up doing, because I always felt like Cold War's lack of depth, it could have been because of the pandemic. Like, they could have just not had enough time to put more stuff in the game. True. But I don't want to see this game come out and then their idea of depth is just throwing in a bunch of more content, which more content's good, but you need to do more interesting things with the content there. Make it through, have some wonder weapons hidden behind a quest, like the Savage Impaler on Dead of the Night. Have certain side quests that give you unique things that you can only get through that side quest. So it's something else you have to learn as a player. It's something you have to, I don't care if it's easy to figure out. Like, I'm not one of those people who need it to be like the most difficult to solve quest ever. As long as it's a fun quest to do and it has some level of thinking behind it, you actually have to use your brain, then I like that. That's all I really want. And I feel like just hearing that the map is meant to be a more complex map, I hope that's what it means. But I have no idea what it actually means in the end. It probably just means the map's going to be like tighter corridors or something. That's probably what they actually mean, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with that. I really do prefer map exclusive features.
Mhm.
I've gotten into debates with Lego Unlocked about this, because, and he actually kind of changed my mind a little bit. We were basically talking about, like, how Zetsubo has the MX Grand or Grand, and then like the Marshalls and some other stuff. I can't remember.
HD40. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And how I really liked that it gave me a reason to go play that map just to experience those weapons. And he said that's basically, he was like, that's a great way to ensure replayability in the long run. He's like, but it ruins the live service element of the game in the short term. And so he was basically saying, I loved going back to play D Machine with Mule Kick, PhD, all the new guns, all the new field upgrades, because like you can't take the Ragnarok DG4s and go to Zetsubo,
Yeah.
So he actually kind of changed my mind there a little bit, where during the live element of the game, it's cool to experiment with all these different features, see how they work against bosses and stuff like that. But I guess my counter to that would be Zombies is not, it has a staying power. So you have to consider the long game too. It can't just be
Mhm.
about the short term. And if the map doesn't have enough depth to satisfy the use of those tools, then what the hell's the point anyway? Like,
Yeah.
if there's not great Easter eggs to strive for, or a great boss fight to beat, then I don't care if I can use Frenzied Guard on D Machine, because the zombies don't kill Orlov anyway.
Yeah. So I definitely, I think it depends, because there's games like Black Ops 4, which there's, like, in terms of guns, every gun is on every map except for there's a couple minor ones. I think some of the ones are only on the chaos maps, I think. But most of the guns appear on every single map, assuming there's like attachments tied to it. And same with the perks, like literally every perk you can use on any map. But because BO4 was able to add a bunch of unique wonder weapons, and the maps feel really unique, and the Easter eggs are really unique, like everything felt so unique outside of that I didn't really care that much. But at the end of the day, I do prefer how it was in like Black Ops 2 and 3, where there are a lot of unique, even just weapons and perks that only appear on certain maps, because, yeah, they give those maps more personality. And sure, with the whole live service, if you're trying to level up a weapon, you might want to play whatever map you want with whatever gun. I get that. And I actually have a suggestion for how they could fix that problem. And honestly, this one suggestion I have, I feel like would fix so many of these topics we're talking about. Like, it would fix the loadout problem. It fix a lot. It would fix the people who hate complex maps. So this is going to be a weird kind of example, but Lego Star Wars, or like Lego games in general.
Sure.
So when you play any mission, you're forced to use 2 specific characters usually, or whatever characters are tied to that mission. But that's it. You can't use anyone else. But when you beat that mission, then it gives you a separate mode called free play, and you are allowed to use any character in your roster. So they could try something like that in Zombies, not necessarily forcing you to beat the Easter egg, because most of the people who would want to play this free play mode probably wouldn't want to do Easter eggs anyways. Maybe just make it so you have to get to round 30 or something, whatever it may be. And then you unlock this free play mode, which is a separate mode that you can play. Every single thing on the map is automatically unlocked. It has the entire sandbox of weapons from the entire game. It has all the wonder weapons even. It has all the specialists, literally everything in that game just thrown onto that one map, assuming the game can handle it. I don't really know how that would work. And it's just meant to be a full sandbox mode. They can call it like sandbox survival or something. You just play it simply just to level up your guns, go to whatever high round you want, and it's just meant for pure fun. There's no Easter eggs. Maybe you could have some Easter eggs there. I don't really know how that would work exactly, but because I think if you were to throw Easter eggs in there and then having wonder weapons from other maps, that might mess with that might mess with the game a bit. But having a separate mode like that, where you can spawn in with anything you want, you can literally that would, to me, take all these criticisms that people have about complex maps and not being able to use whatever weapon they want on whatever map, and it would allow them to just play a separate mode that gives them that. But the core mode itself, the core version of the maps, is a more immersive experience, more centered around the atmosphere, and making sure the weapons have, or making sure the maps have, very specific and unique personalities, and they stay within that personality, and that's it. I think that could solve a lot of those problems and would give everyone something to play. I'm not really sure if more people would prefer that other mode or not. I guess if you were able to do Easter eggs in other mode, it probably would be preferred for most people. But
then it would just be.
Then it would just be everyone. Yeah, it would just be Cold War pretty much. But at least it would be like, I don't know. I'm thinking about, there's a big difference between how the game plays at launch versus like years later. Like I feel like the launch version of the game is the most important to keep that immersion and that feeling, because it's the first time you're playing it, the first time you're doing the Easter egg, the first time you're seeing the story. Whereas years later, it's kind of whatever. Like Infinite Warfare, again, another example. If Director's Cut was something you had from the start, like that wouldn't be fun. I would kind of hate that. But because the game, you progressively unlock it as you beat all the maps, you've already had those experiences. You've already played the map with the core progression. Now you just get to have fun with this separate, sort of like a free play mode in some senses. So if they were to do something like that, I don't know. I think it could work, but there would probably be some issues with it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even to go back to the Black Ops 4 anecdote you mentioned, I actually, the loadout element of BO4 was probably my least favorite part. I hated that there was every perk was available on every map. I didn't like that I could take Wraith Fires, grenade. Like I just didn't like that. Especially with the specialists, because I loved hunting for the specialists in Black Ops 3. But I think out of all the maps, like I just want to throw shade on BO4 because I'm always talking shit about Cold War, so I gotta spread some of the hate. But that was a core feature I still don't like to this day. But I don't think it's as glaring of an issue as it feels in Cold War. But Dead of the Night has done it, handled everything the best way possible, because it said, okay, you can have every perk, you can have every field upgrade, you can have every gun, but there's special weapons here. There's the main wonder weapon, there's the melee wonder weapon, there's the Savage Impaler wonder weapon. All great side quests. You have a main quest with a boss fight, beautiful art design. It just knocked so many elements out of the park to balance that. So it's like, sure, I guess if you want to have 7 field upgrades in the game that I can play with on every map, okay, fine. But can I have some sort of unique reason to go back to any of the other maps? And that, in Dead of the Night, in my opinion, I think is the only map in Black Ops 4 or just in general that has executed this well. Because Ancient Evil, there's no side Easter eggs in that. There's nothing to do at all outside of the quest and getting the gauntlets. That's it. Which I love it. It's really fun. Don't get me wrong. But it's pretty straightforward in terms of that.
The silver bullets are sick too. It's like literally built-in double tap. Like that was one of the coolest things that map did for me. Yeah,
stuff like that just takes it to another level. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds here with it, but I have like a whole. We kind of talked about it when we were playing with Stanley and Moon that one time, talking about like concepts to reward people. But we'll talk about that another time. Let's get into, because we've been going for like 40 minutes here. Let's get into some of the questions and answers that I sent you, because I think we have probably some spicy takes coming from you, because I know you have some opinions. So the first question I asked is, what is your wait, where are my questions? Where'd they go? Okay, what's your favorite Zombies rendition, and then what's your favorite Zombies map? So you said Black Ops 3 is your favorite Zombies rendition, but Zombies in Spaceland is your favorite Zombies map. Can you square that circle for me?
So yeah, I mean, Black Ops 3, it's obviously like I feel like a pretty standard answer for the best one, but I feel like just in terms of pure, consistently amazing maps, it nails that. There's not a single out of the new maps. There's not a single below like good map in that game. They're all at least solid. Like even Revelations is probably my least favorite. I still think it's a solid map. The Easter eggs too. I think all of them are good. I enjoy all of them. The boss fights mostly are pretty solid, except for I guess Shadows of Evil and Revelations. But the other ones I really enjoy. The soundtracks are all some of the best we've seen, other than BO4. There's a lot of variety, like we were talking about before. Every map feels like it has its own uniqueness to it, whether it's the specialist weapon, the theming of it, the color palettes, the side Easter eggs, which there's a lot of side Easter eggs on, especially Shadows of Evil, and GK I think is a decent amount. Zetsubo has like the spider bait. Like there's just so many little things, which does also happen in BO4, which I will say BO4 is definitely up there as one of my favorites as well. But I feel like BO3 just handles the core mechanics better, like in terms of the movements, the perk system, for the most part, just the way it's more what I'm used to. And the high rounds I think are mostly fun. I think there's a lot of variety in what you can use because of the AATs, and most of the guns are well balanced. I don't think there's that many guns that are like pointless or useless, but there also is a lot of personality to the guns. They have their own purposes. That's what the old point system gave you. They gave each gun its own purpose. And I think the core progression in early rounds just feels the best. And I don't usually talk about custom zombies when it comes to BO3 because it's not everyone plays it. It's not on console, but that is an additional thing that this game does have to offer that most other zombies don't. So that is a huge plus. And then if you want to play little survival maps, have fun with those. You can play the Giant, you can play the Chronicles maps, whatever. Even though when I talk about BO3, I'm not even like, most people say it's only good because of Chronicles, or at least some people say that. But like, you could take away Chronicles, you could take away customs. It still is, in my opinion, the best zombies experience of all time, without a doubt. I don't expect anything to beat it. It's okay if nothing beats it. I'm fine with that. But like, it's just the amount of fun I had on it back in the day, the amount of fun I still have on it to this day. If I ever go back to it, I know I'm having a good experience. I think every map is designed well. I mean, they all go based off of the Blundell, like Mob of the Dead Origins formula, and they kind of just perfected that formula. But like, it's a phenomenal formula. So like, I'm fine with that. I played it safe. I will admit it's not the most innovative game, and it doesn't have enough side Easter egg, or not. It doesn't have enough side modes. Like there's no separate way to play the game other than I guess Dead Ops Arcade and Nightmare mode, but Nightmare is kind of shit. But yeah, there's just so much to it. I do wish it had that extra oomph. If it had like a grief mode or something like that, there would be a little bit more to it. But regardless, the core game itself, it's almost perfect.
Yeah. I think if you're ever gonna or like recommend a mode, like if somebody's like, hey, I'm trying to get into Call of Duty Zombies, like where should I start? It's like probably Black Ops
BO3. Yeah. I think
go ahead.
It's more casual friendly than I feel like people realize. There's only like one or two elements that I don't think are very casual friendly. Like, I don't know. People say Shadows of Evil's what is it? The Pack-a-Punch quest. Yeah. They say it's not casual friendly, but if you try, like, I think anyone could figure that out on their own. They just have to try maybe a little bit more than the average map, which I don't think that makes it not casual friendly. It's just, you might have to play it more to learn it, which is fine. But stuff like the bows on Durais and Durak, you're probably not figuring that out without a guide, which we've talked about this before. I don't think it's like the end of the world. Like looking up a guide, it takes 2 minutes, but whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I personally, for those out there who don't know, I think guides are a good thing. I think anything that encourages community connection is a good thing. Obviously, I don't think if a step is like solving a Rubik's Cube, like while you're upside down underwater or holding your breath, doing Morse code at the same, like I understand that is stupid, but having a guide, it's pretty standard. I mean, when I was a kid, like playing Zelda and stuff, like I would solve a lot of the game on my own and I would have a guide, and I love the art and like the pictures, and I loved reading like stuff on forums, and I just think it's a great way to connect with people. So I don't necessarily see the hatred towards it. It's really weird to me. I just think people don't like having to try. I know it's not, I don't think people hate hard things. I think they hate when they have to try a lot. Cause like I'll be playing Elden Ring and I'll just get my ass whooped and I'm like, I'm never playing again. And then I put the controller down and I come back a couple hours later and I'm like, and I try again. So I get that frustration. But dude, when I got Shadows of Evil for the first time, I had no idea what I was doing. It probably took me a week to open up Pack-a-Punch. I was so confused. So
but that gives the game more longevity. Like to me, that's the fun of when it's more complex, is you're taking longer to learn it. There's things in zombies like BO3, BO4 to this day, like some of the side Easter eggs, I don't know that well, to the point where if I do them again, it feels like a whole new learning experience. And I like that. Cold War has none of that. I've done every single thing in Cold War and I've mastered it within like the first time I do it, because there's just no depth to it. So it loses its longevity because I have no reason to try to master it.
Yeah. The one thing I really do like about Cold War is it just feels good.
Yeah, it does
it just feels good. You're shooting zombies, the guns feel good, the sounds sound good. The graphics are better than I give it credit for. I think they over time they've perfected the art style. It just feels good to kill shit and to hop in there and I don't necessarily mind like things like Pack-a-Punch or super streamlined, because Derize and Drac, you press square twice and then on the third one it literally does it automatically for you. So I don't really get too mad about that stuff, but I beat the Easter egg on my second try. I think I died the first time because of those lightning things. I didn't quite understand that, but then I did it on my second try and I was like, that's kind of lame. And there's like a helicopter exfils no cutscene, and I don't know. I hate being a hater about it because I do like the game, but I just think the systems were not quite there. But yeah, let's talk about Spaceland. Why, how is that your favorite map? Because, and let me just preface this a bit. Black Ops 3 has so many great mechanics in it. It has so many great boss fights, it's just narratively put together really well. And then Spaceland, I do think is a great map. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But it has a lot of mechanics in it that I think are slow and they stifle the gameplay, and like getting to round 7 is like a slog. It feels it's kind of like a one note map. Yeah, that's not true. That's not true. That's not what I mean. Because there's a lot of side stuff to do, but I don't know how I want to phrase this. I generally like, I do the Easter egg. Maybe I'll do around 30. And then I feel like satisfied playing that map for a while. I'm like, I don't need to come back to Spaceland for a bit. So I'm just curious, like, where are you falling here?
Yeah, I got a lot to say about it because it is a map that I didn't call my favorite until like maybe the past year. I used to say it was like, top 5, but I always said Origins or like DE was the best. And I always said that because I always said the one thing holding back Spaceland was the lack of story. Like, there really is no story to the map. There's some, but it's not like, none of it's that interesting. It's very like minuscule stuff. But I kind of just realized over time, like, story isn't everything. Like, it's important to zombies. It does have an emphasis on a lot of the maps. But Spaceland to me is like, it's a storyless, but still somehow really immersive experience. Like, you do feel like you're in a theme park because they actually have a lot of elements that you would see in a theme park that you can actually interact with, which I will say, like, there are some things that I wish they did even more. But compared to most maps, it probably has like the most amount of unique interactable things. Like, just some examples. The arcade is a great example. And I like that you mentioned that the early rounds feel like a slog sometimes, because I don't disagree. The zombies spawn in kind of slow. I can see that. But I kind of like that, though, because of the arcade. What I always do, usually starting off the game, is I would start up, head right to the arcade, first things first, and then just play the arcade games. And because the zombies kind of spawn in a bit slower in that game, or especially on that map, I feel like there's actually time to play those games and actually get tickets. And yeah, the games are pretty simplistic. They're not that crazy. Like, there's the basketball one, there's the one with the little teeth, there's the skee ball. Like, there's not that many games really, but they're still like fun. The fact that they have arcade games in a zombies mode is something I never would have expected to see. So it gives it personality. It gives it something to mess around with. And the tickets are actually kind of useful because they're a completely separate currency that you can only use for certain items in the game. Some of it you need for the Easter egg. Some of it is just for fun. And there's also just so many. Well, actually, traps is a big thing I want to talk about too, because traps is never something I care about on most maps. But they actually found a way to make the traps mean something in this game because you have to use them for the Wonder Weapon quests. And I think there was just so much fun involved in going for those Wonder Weapons and using the traps to get the Wonder Weapons. They're all, I think, fun to go for all the Wonder Weapons. and then use director's cut. You just get them straight out of the box. So I mean, I do still play the map quite a bit, even with director's cut. Sometimes I'll play without, but it's just like with Gobblegums, the director's cut just kind of skips over some things that you maybe don't want to repeat. I also love that each area in the map feels so unique, and that's a huge thing that I think it's one of the most important aspects of zombies. So we talk about maps being unique from each other, but I also think the areas on a map should feel unique from each other, which is a thing that I think Cold War failed in, where like most of those maps, I feel like each area feels kind of the same, whether it's the layout or the look of it or the things you can do on it. Like everything just kind of feels samey. Whereas in Spaceland, each area just feels so different, whether it's the different things you can interact with, like the arcade that's only there in the arcade. The different traps feel very different. They actually work a bit differently. There's even like a game like the where you have to like shoot the little balls at the targets on completely one side of the map. Then there's the roller coaster on the other side with the giant mountain. Stuff like that's just really interactive and adds so much. Then there's the tokens you can use to get different traps from the token machines. So much better than using salvage to buy score streaks from a menu. I think it's so much more immersive just taking these tokens you get from zombies, and then like you kind of learn over the time while you're playing which token combinations go with which traps, and that's something you could look up a guide for, but you could also just figure that out yourself. Then there's the music, which I think is an underrated part of the map, because I think soundtracks are one of the most important parts to your experience on a zombies game. And having this like just long list of amazing 80 songs on this map, it's adds so much to it. Like, yeah, of course you could just throw on a playlist on your phone and listen to it on any map, sure. But like, because these maps are so specifically tied to Spaceland, there are songs in this map that nowadays, if I hear it somewhere else, I just think of Spaceland, even if it was a song I heard of before this. Like Tainted Love is a good example. Obviously, I've known that song way before Spaceland even came out, but it's now a Spaceland song to me. It has now become one with Spaceland, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And the other maps, Raven the Redwoods and Shaolin, actually do that too, just a little bit, but not as much. And I think that just adds so much. And they go a step further by making it so the sound design, it comes out of the speakers rather than just being out of the player.
I know.
So
I'm hearing it in my head. Yeah.
It's so good, because if you go in the underground area, you're not going to hear it, but that's immersive, because normally in a theme park, you wouldn't be hearing the music in well, actually, I don't know. I've never worked in a theme park, so I don't really know how that works, but I'm assuming they wouldn't have all the music being played in the office rooms. So stuff like that's just so cool. And then you have the main Easter egg, which isn't like that great of an Easter egg. I'll admit it's definitely not one of my favorites, but it's simple and it's still fun. Like there's one puzzle step in there with the Simon Says, which is, I like Simon Says steps. They're usually fun. There's a set of lockdowns
the UFO,
with the UFO. Yeah, the boss fight's fine. Like I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's a fun boss fight. Some people say it's too hard. I've never felt that way. I guess if you have 4 players, it's a lot harder because there's more aliens. But I think it's a fun boss fight. And then on top of that, you could do the Ghosts and Skulls Easter egg, which, if those of you who don't know, Infinite Warfare, every map has a secondary quest that I would consider like a second Easter egg, basically. And they're called the Ghosts and Skulls quests. And I've never done any of them other than the Spaceland one, actually. I plan to do them someday. I've just never got around to them. I heard they're really difficult in the other maps, but the Spaceland one is...
Yeah, they are.
Spaceland one's not that hard. It's pretty easy, but it's fun. Like, it's an extra thing you can do, and if you get bored of the first Easter egg, you have a whole nother thing to work towards. So
you have to do the first Easter egg to do
that is true, yeah.
Just for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, bro... Oh, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
No, I think that's pretty much all I had to say, actually. I think I'm sure I can think of something else, but yeah.
Yeah, honestly, bro, you're 100% right. I just am such an Easter egg focused guy. Like, I just think, okay, I do Spaceland's Easter egg. It's pretty short. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of done. But no, but you're absolutely right. I just haven't played Infinite Warfare in a while. But
that's fair.
The currency systems, I think, are a big thing, because I think a lot of people, again, I'm not trying to just like make this the shit on Cold War podcast. It's probably what people are going to start calling it. But it's Cold War has multiple currencies, points, and then 2 kinds of salvage. I'm not even against that. It's how those currencies are utilized. So
Yep.
in Infinite Warfare, you have the tickets, which you have to earn. You have the zombies that drop the coins, and then the zombies also drop backpacks and which give you ammo, grenade, different types of
Mhm.
grenades and stuff like that. And then you can take those currencies, points, coins, tickets, and apply them to different areas of the map. And that makes it special. And you can go to those carts and buy specific add-ons, whether they're equipment or that arcane thing to your weapon. That stuff is amazing. And I don't actually hate the crafting table inside of Cold War, but I think the passive, and I've said this a lot, it's the passivity of just getting salvage and then going and pressing square and using a menu. If that workbench was tailored to demachine and I had to take that salvage and do something with it, like combine some blue, red, and green salvage to get, I don't know, a freaking turret or a jukebox or whatever, kind of like the same concept on Spaceland. I just think that would make it so much more interactive and more fun. And that's actually something I hope BO6 elevates on, because I don't think the salvage system is bad. I just think a lot of Cold War systems are like undercooked. And if you look at Spaceland, that's a really good example of how you can take multiple currencies and apply them in a fun, interesting manner. So bring salvage, bring points, bring something else. I'm totally open to it. But let's try to have some sort of fun way to implement these systems so that we can, I don't know, just have some mini progression within it. Spaceland has like a lot of mini progression trees inside of it. It's like one large progression tree, and then there's like all these little branches that you can kind of veer off into. And that's what makes Zombie special. So I actually agree with you a lot. Right. Yeah. I think I pretty much agree with everything you said. That was very well put, very eloquently put.
Yeah, the exquisite thing as well. I was going to mention that. Like, that's kind of a side quest in and of itself. It's you get all of the crystals that you need for the wonder weapons, and then you put them in the machine, and it gives you a special purple one that basically just makes your weapon like even more powerful than it was before. That's cool. And then also, you know, the challenges that Neil gives you, those are so much more interesting and fun to do compared to what Cold War gives you, because Cold War, you have to keep going back to this machine and holding X on it to do a challenge. Whereas Neil just keeps going through them until eventually you get to the end, and then you have to spawn at Hasselhoff and find a battery. But before that, it just keeps going through them. And like, those are just an extra thing you can do in the early rounds just for fun. You don't have to keep going back to Neil in order to get a new challenge. Stuff like that's cool too.
I definitely like challenge systems. I think those are needed. And one thing that I like about BO4 is that the challenge systems were required to do Easter eggs. So like in Ancient Evil, you had to do some of those challenges in order to get the blue fire. And I was actually thinking about that the other day, because I'm putting together the Ancient Evil retrospective, and I was just like, Cold War never did that. Cold War never did that once. I was like, that's very interesting. And I'm very surprised, because it's very unlike Treyarch to not have us do that, because they did that in BO3 too, I think. So what zombies mode you hate the most? And I do, this was also CJ's answer. He said Exo Zombies, but then you said both Anfang and Terra Maledicta were your least favorite zombies maps that you just like have that visceral reaction to. What's the disparity there? Because I'm a little conflicted, because I can see Exo Zombies mode being the worst mode for sure, but then you think the worst mode would probably have the worst map. No? Or what's the connection here?
Well, to be honest, like, I could have said Infection for that answer of the Burger Town map. I could have definitely have said that too. But I think Anfang and Terra Maledicta are just like, they're just another level of bad. But the reason I don't think Vanguard is the worst is because I have a little bit of fun playing the Shinonuma Reborn map and the Archon. I don't think they're good necessarily. I don't hate myself playing them. You know what I mean? Like, I can still play those maps. I can play those maps and be like, yeah, whatever. This is, to me, those last two maps in Vanguard are on the same level of quality of the Cold War maps, which people think I'm crazy when I say that. But like, I do, like, they're not that different. The mechanics are relatively similar, aside from a couple things. The level of depth is about the same. So to me, they're kind of just like Cold War maps, and they're fine. They're not like amazing. Like I don't think the Cold War maps are amazing either, but they're not bad either. Whereas Anfang and Terra Maledicta, they are just, I just can't get any fun out of them. They tried this completely new system with the, you know, objective based rounds, which, yeah, they've done that in Outbreak before, but now it's on these like small scale maps that mostly are just ripped from multiplayer and campaign. And there's just no freedom in that mode. You literally just play to do objectives and then do another objective, and then there's like nothing else to do. They later added this like void objective, which kind of lets you play round based in those maps, sort of, but it was like a bootleg version of it. Doesn't really count. Regardless, you're just kind of forced to doing these really boring and repetitive quests that they're not challenging at all. They're just repetitive. They just feel like busy work just for the sake of it. There's never any actual feeling of survival or completing any quests. Like none of that exists on those maps. Terra Maledicta at least has an Easter egg. Anfang does not. But the one on Terra Maledicta is like the most simple Easter egg. It's like 2 steps. There's nothing to it. So I don't ever see the point of playing these maps ever again. The only time I ever will play them again is for gameplay or if it's like a video related thing, but I'm never going to hop on these maps just for the hell of it. Infection, though, I think although I despise that map as well, I could at least say, sure, it has a full Easter egg. It has, you know, a wonder weapon unique to it. Well, I guess the Decimator shield is on Terra Maledicta, but whatever. It has at least something. There's a unique map there, you know, so that's why I wouldn't say Infection's worse. But I would consider Exo Zombies worse, though, because like I said, you know, it doesn't have at least like 2 maps that I could relatively enjoy. I feel like most of those games' core mechanics just ruin what that game is. Even though Carrier and Descent, like there's some cool things on those maps, by round 10, when EMZs start spawning in, it's kind of ruined because now you have all these EMZs coming at you and it's just no fun to have anymore. So any like good things in Exo Zombies are just destroyed by game mechanics.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It's been a long time since I played Exo Zombies. And I, like I said in the last podcast, I actually played it before I played BO3, getting back into zombies. So I didn't actually hate it. Because I hadn't played zombies in a few years. So it was just kind of fun. But yeah, I remember like the Pack-a-Punch had like 25 levels to it or something. And perks were in these weird spaces that were tied to your exosuit. And it was jarring. I really need to go back and play it to see how I feel about it. But yeah, as far as Anfang and Terra Maledicta, I think what's more off-putting than even the maps themselves and the objectives inside of them is I don't like the way the game feels. I don't like the way the guns sound. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like anything about it. And I know this is I don't even know if it's shallow or not. I can't decide. I go back and forth on it. I like to be in a space that I enjoy when I'm playing zombies. Or any game. I want to look around this world and go, holy shit, this is magnificent. I want to explore everything. And then those gameplay mechanics serve the world. And they have like this loop that they're just kind of feeding into each other. So you want to see something amazing. You're like, I want to go explore it and use these amazing gameplay mechanics that allow me to explore. And you just keep digging and keep digging. And Vanguard had the tomb of something, the tomb of the ancients. I don't even know what the hell it was called. And you'd use those sacrificial hearts to upgrade your field upgrade and use the
covenants. I think is the word.
Yeah. Yes. The covenants. Yes. So stupid. And well, no, I'm talking about the book.
Oh yeah, those are basically the specialists, right?
Yeah, that would help you upgrade your field upgrade. And then there was the covenants as well. I actually didn't hate the covenants as much, but I just wish that those were put into side quests. Like if there's if I have a perk that can give me more salvage, then why can't I go do a little side Easter egg that allows me to, for that match, increase my salvage rate by 50% or whatever?
Yeah.
Again, it's similar to Cold War. Granted, Cold War was way better, But
Yeah.
for those two maps, it's a very similar thing where it's like they just didn't have time to see through these systems. So they have to do the best with what they got, and then that becomes a stain on the record of Treyarch, and it's very unfortunate. It really is.
I don't know. I feel like the reception, it still would have been negative, but it wouldn't have been nearly as bad if they just scrapped Anfang and Terra Maledicta and then just started with the Shinonuma Reborn map and just did a round-based map like that. Like, sure, people wouldn't have been saying it's like great or anything, but at least they would have been like, okay, this isn't that good, but it's playable. And they would have, I feel like people wouldn't have had this visceral reaction to it, which was a justifiable reaction, but I don't think it would have, like you said, stained everything as much, especially if Treyarch came out and said, like, this is an off year for us. This is just kind of like a spin-off mode. We're just going to kind of have fun with the round-based formula, see what we can do with it. Then maybe it wouldn't have been a problem. But they tried this new mode, which I'm not opposed to them trying new things. I'm never opposed to that. But this wasn't even really like trying a new thing necessarily, because it was just taking aspects from Outbreak, Onslaught, the Tortured Path, and just kind of like throwing them together. But there are aspects that, like, I feel like the community has been pretty clear that they don't like those aspects, at least for like the main mode. So I don't know how they like went into that thinking that this would be something that community would like. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, that leads me into my next kind of two questions, which is like, what's the best zombies and worst zombies developer? For the best zombies developer, you said Treyarch, and for the worst, you said Raven Software. I think that was the same answer as CJ. But digging into this a little bit deeper, it's kind of interesting that the best zombies developer has created the most viscerally hated maps. And well, I guess the Raven Software, most hated mode, most hated zombies developer, I guess that does track. But I like the irony baked into Treyarch being the best developer, but also having some of the worst content out there. And that shows a little bit of diversity in their ability to create good, well, I mean, not to be redundant, but have a diverse content palette. But yeah, why don't you expand on that a little bit more?
Like, honestly, it's hard to even like as much as I put Raven as the worst there, it's hard for me to really like negatively criticize them, because I guarantee you they were thrown on that project last minute and they probably didn't want to do it. And then they're like, okay, let's just put together a zombies mode. And they haven't made one before, so they probably didn't fully understand the formula that as well as Treyarch does. So like, I can't even really hate them for it. But obviously I wouldn't put Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer as the worst, because I like Infinite Warfare Zombies a lot, and World War II I think is fine. I don't think it's amazing, but I don't think it's bad either. So I couldn't call either of those developers bad at making zombies. I do want to see those studios or any of those studios make a zombies mode, because even though Treyarch has had like separate studio, like Vanguard essentially was made by like a separate sub studio within Treyarch, but I want to see these other developers completely make zombies modes so we can kind of judge other I guess ideas put into zombies, because I also so we can have zombies more often too, because if Treyarch is the only one making zombies, we shouldn't get zombies every year, because then they won't be able to have enough time to put together solid modes because they're spreading their resources thin. But if we get a different studio making it every year, well, then we can actually get not only a lot more zombies, but also those other studios having their own separate visions. I personally think that was the best time to be a zombies fan, was 2014 to 2018, when we had a new zombies mode
100%.
Every single year. There was a new studio releasing it, and people just call it Burnout and stuff. I don't understand. Burnout is such a weird term to me. It makes just stop playing then. Like, I don't understand why too much content would cause burnout when you can simply just choose not to play as much as someone does. Like, I can understand Burnout if it's in reference to like a cinematic, like a movie universe, because maybe there's just too many movies to keep up with. I can get that maybe, but when it comes to video games, you don't have to play all of them to understand what's going on at all. You don't have to play them that much. So I don't know. I never understood that personally. I think the more zombies, the better. I just want to see it from different studios so they can actually spend enough time to give it good quality.
Well, I think the Burnout, because I actually do believe in this theory, I don't think the Burnout was from zombies. I think the Burnout was from the Zombies formula, because they were just taking Treyarch's formula and trying some other things on the outside. It was like setup, perks, same pack-a-punch, Easter egg, boss. It was like the same freaking formula from BO3 to IW to World War II and then to BO4. And I think that the IW and World War II hurt BO4. I do believe this, not because they were bad or good games, but because they showed that other developers can do this. And then Treyarch came to the table with all these innovations and changing the way it's played after we had been conditioned to both love and grow tired of this same formula. It was a very weird time. I think players were kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth, and I'm not bashing players for this. I think this is kind of a problem as like I hate using this word, as a gamer. It's the worst word ever in the world. But as a gaming enthusiast, I think it's just you want what you don't necessarily know how to describe. And developers have the impossible task of delivering a product that you don't even know in your head that you want. How the hell you're supposed to do that? I don't know. And I'm glad that they do, and I don't. But I think COD Zombies fans were like, well, we want that same experience of the unknown, because that's what BO3 was. It was taking fans on a journey to the unknown and expanding upon all of the previous elements. So like in BO2, it was like getting set up, doing little Easter eggs, having some cool wonder weapons. But then BO3, we had these boss fights, amazing narrative, crazy cinematic cutscenes, Zombies Chronicles. It was like new heights that we had never taken. But how do you go higher than that? And then we see Infinite Warfare can do the same thing. We can see World War II can do the same thing. And then BO4 is coming out and it's like flipping everything on its head and then oversaturating the market, by 8 because of 8 maps. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad or a good thing. I just think it kind of is what happened. I do agree with you. If you're getting burnout, just take a step back. Totally agree. It was more of the formula than anything else, I think. But did you have anything else you wanted to add on the best and worst Zombies developer, or are you cool with moving on to the best COD developer?
I'm ready to move on.
Well, because the reason I'm asking is because I want to talk about Infinity Ward being the worst developer, but you put in parentheses, love Infinite Warfare, though. Kind of going back to IW Zombies for a sec. At one point in time, according to Brian Bright, there were more players in Zombies than in multiplayer. I don't know if you knew this. Yeah.
In Infinite Warfare Zombies?
Yes.
Wow. That makes sense, because people hated that multiplayer.
It's a very interesting stat. So that is curious to me. Apparently the ratio is like really high. Like, I don't know if it was like 9-1 or 8-1 or what it was, but apparently there was a lot more Infinite Warfare Zombies players. That being said, it kind of goes to show you how good Infinite Warfare Zombies actually was, and how I think people actually are kind of yearning for a little bit of challenge. And I think that alludes to the fact that other developers should be making zombies outside of just Treyarch.
Yeah. It would also let them take more risks. I've had a fair share of complaints about Modern Warfare Zombies, but I don't think the idea of having like a open world experience as the full mode is like necessarily a bad thing. It's just Treyarch is now wasting resources on something that like inevitably is just not enjoyable for a lot of people, especially because they're not able to give it the time it actually needs to be good, because a mode like that needs constant development and constant updates for it to stay relevant. Whereas if they just did a simple round-based mode of some sort, they probably could have managed it better. Or if, like I said, a separate studio made it entirely, then it could have gotten the time it deserves. But like, I'm not opposed to other studios like just trying new things. If they want to release a zombies mode or something and it's just completely different than anything we've seen before, I'd be open to that. I just think, I also want to see them expand on the round-based formula, because that to me is the type of innovation I like, where you're not removing things, you're not changing things, you're just adding on to it, which is what they did in Zombies for a while. Like Black Ops 1 didn't take anything away from World at War. It just added on it. Black Ops 2 added on Black Ops 1. Black Ops 3 added on to Black Ops 2. Black Ops 4 started taking some stuff away, changing it around a bit, which some of it was okay with, some of it I wasn't, but it mostly just added, like before that was mostly just adding stuff, the innovation. And I don't think they've gotten to a point where round-based has seen its complete like innovation. Like I don't think there's a point where they can't innovate anymore on the formula. Some people act like that's the case. I've heard people say that they don't think round-based can do anything else, so they might as well just either stop doing it or I don't know, just keep doing the same thing. But I think there's so much untapped potential with that formula that it annoys me that like we're only going to get like one actual mode per like 3 or 4 years, because the ones in between are just going to be, assuming they continue what they've been doing, the ones in between are probably just going to be bootleg ones thrown together by Treyarch that they don't really have enough time to develop, which I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping they'll change things around. I would love to see Infinity Ward do a zombies mode in their next game. Probably won't happen, but even if it's Extinction, I would take that over nothing. But I do think the zombies formula, there's so much more they can do. And because Treyarch feels like they have to do this Dark Ether story, they have to be all serious and all that, like it would be nice to see the other developers just do something completely different, which that's what I felt with Infinite Warfare. Even though it's the same formula, even though it's just round-based, same perks, all that, having it be this like completely separate tone with its goofiness and just not taking anything seriously, to me that was refreshing. And then you go from that to World War II, which went in a more like a horror serious approach. Yeah, it was way different. And then back to BO4, which was kind of a mix of both. Like there was some stuff that was teetering on the line of a bit goofy, but most of it was relatively serious. So that like change in tone per year, it was perfect. And I don't feel that anymore because I feel like they've just been doing the same thing. You know, Cold War, MWZ, probably BO6 is going to be relatively militaristic, a little bit of Dark Ether stuff thrown in there. I hope I'm wrong. I hope BO6 goes crazy with it, but we don't really know yet, to be honest. So,
well, yeah, let's put a pin in that part for the last question. But so you would be okay with your least favorite developer? What's the question? Who's the worst COD developer overall? You'd be okay with the worst COD developer overall making another zombies mode, or you just want a third mode in general?
Yeah, kind of. Even if it ended up not being great, like to me, it's just the attempt at it would at least be nice. But also, because no matter what they do, it would be better than something Treyarch would throw together as a separate team. Most likely, I don't think they're going to have enough time to throw something together in another year. I'm really curious what they're going to do in the next year, because there's rumors it's going to be like a Black Ops 7, but we don't have to talk about that now. But Infinity Ward, my problems with them is all related to certain multiplayer mechanics and ideas and philosophies that I don't necessarily think would ruin the zombies experience, although it could, because a lot of it is in that realm of trying to be like overly pushing towards the casual player base. So perhaps that would end up also going into zombies in a negative way, but I would still be open to see what they could do with it, because I don't even know like if the zombies team that worked on Infinite Warfare Zombies, I don't even know if they're still there. I know Lee Ross isn't there. I know Brian Bright's not there, but I'm sure there's some people still there. I'm sure there's some that would enjoy making a zombies mode. I have no idea. I do feel like Sledgehammer is going to make one with their next COD, though, which is probably going to be 2027's Call of Duty. I'm highly confident Sledgehammer is going to make a zombies mode. I feel like if they get proper development time, they're the type of studio to put like a crazy goofy zombies mode. Because I don't know if you've been seeing Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer. They've been doing some insanely goofy things with like Minecraft modes, with like the 8-bit mode. There's like the Get Higher mode. There's all sorts of just crazy things they're doing in the multiplayer. They would put together a really fun zombies mode, I can tell. So I do think they're going to do that. Infinity Ward, I don't know. I feel like they could try just doing another Spec Ops, which would be crazy to me, because Spec Ops,
it's so boring.
I don't know who cares about Spec Ops. I've never met a single person who likes it that much. Like, sure, they might play it, but like, are they ever going to care about it as much as zombies? I haven't seen anybody like that. I'm sure they exist, but I don't know.
Not modern Spec Ops, maybe the classic one.
Maybe the classic.
So as a overall COD picture, like what's the reasoning for falling in more in line with Treyarch games versus Infinity Ward games? Is it campaign? Is it multiplayer? Is it the takes on Warzone? Is it only a zombies thing? Like, what's the real disparity here?
Definitely multiplayer and zombies. Zombies is the big part for sure, because not only have they done more zombies modes, they've also consistently brought out better ones for the most part. But multiplayer as well. Like my top, and this goes for games in general, not just the multiplayer, but my top 6 Call of Duty games, 5 of them are Black Ops games. So like, yeah, their formula just works better for me. I think they're more arcadey, they're more fast paced. The time to kill is better in the multiplayers, and then you throw on top of that zombies. Obviously, it's the whole package. Their campaigns are Black Ops 1 and 2 are solid. Those are fantastic campaigns for sure. World at War is good too. Black Ops 3 is the one that like I've had times where I've played it and I've enjoyed the story. I think there's really interesting ideas in the story. It's actually really well written. It's just executed so horribly. And that's why everyone hates it, because it's like the execution is just so bad. But the actual story, people don't realize it. There's actually a lot of depth to it. And I believe it was the Zombies team did it, which is why it ended up that way, because the story they were writing felt like it fit a Zombies mode more than it fit a campaign. But like, it is good. It just doesn't, they didn't execute it well at all. And then Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign. In Cold War, they didn't even technically make that campaign. So I do think Infinity Ward, I like their campaigns slightly more. Infinite Warfare is my favorite campaign of all time. Some people share that opinion, actually. I'm surprised a lot of people do, but I think it's got the most emotion, the most character depth, the most insane, like just cinematic sequences I've ever seen in not even just a Call of Duty game, like almost in a video game period. There's some great stuff there. It's just really well written too. But Sledgehammer is the one where I think their campaigns are the weakest. They don't usually have great campaigns, but oh well.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, their multiplayers I like though. I don't think I've disliked the Sledgehammer multiplayer. Even Vanguard, I don't like despise as much as everyone else, but it's definitely not great. It's held down by a lot of the Modern Warfare 2019 mechanics that just kind of carried over into it. But it's not like the worst thing ever. But Treyarch by far, in especially multiplayer and zombies, they easily the best.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very, very fair. Well said. So, couple final questions here. The question number 9 is, what is your craziest or hottest take about Call of Duty Zombies? And you wrote, my friend, a longer map setup is a good thing, and extreme complexity is better than extreme simplicity. That is a hot take. I might have to cancel you, bro.
It is.
I definitely agree with having more of a setup. I actually think that's why I prefer BO4 so much. I'm just kind of priming the question here, because I enjoy a map that has an Easter egg that's pushing me to round 30. Like, regardless of what I try to do, no matter how many elixirs I use, well, except for Dead of the Night, but no matter how many elixirs I do or use or whatever, whichever path I take, the classic route or the OP route, I'm kind of always landing in that same sweet spot, like around 26, 33, to where the zombies are challenging. It's intense. I might go down a few times. Like, there's really, the stakes feel high because I'm pushed into the late game by doing the quest. For setup, I'm kind of mixed on both, because I think a longer setup is actually kind of good for a casual, because a casual fan can then kind of think that setup is almost a quest in of itself. And then that longer quest is just for the hardcore player at that point. So I actually agree with you more than I disagree with you, but I don't know what you mean by complexity. So you would have to kind of get a little bit more specific there.
Yeah. So I'll talk about that part first. So in general, it's more of a general thing just in zombies in total, right? I would rather an Easter egg or the map design or whatever it may be, I would rather it be as like extremely complex as opposed to being extremely simplistic. And I say that because I feel like that's one of the most common arguments or complaints I hear for certain maps or modes is complexity. I always hear people saying, oh, Dead of the Night, it's too many parts, too many things to do, too many of this. Like, I always hear that as an argument, and I would much rather take that, which I don't even consider that to be that complex of a map, but sure, like let's say it is. I would rather that. I would rather have more things to look for, more things to learn, even if some of it is frustrating, like even if some of it kind of pisses me off a little bit. Like there's maps that do that for sure. I think an example is the Beast from Beyond quest to get the Venom X. It's pretty frustrating. It's pretty stupid, but I would rather even the most frustrating thing ever than it just not having enough content to the point where it's just simplistic. Like a map like D Machine to me is just very simplistic. There's not enough things to do on it. There's not enough things to solve. There was an Easter egg, and then there's like a couple side quests that, like, one of the side quests is literally just shooting 5 blue orbs, and then you get a little chest with some rewards. It's like the first time I did it was funny because it had the zombies with the coffin dance thing, but like it's not really like there's no depth there. It's just takes 2 seconds. It's nothing. Whereas, you know, a quest like, I don't know, the spider bait on Zetsubo, you're going around the map, you're bringing this spider to the water buckets. You have to bring it to the what do you call it? The cage thing, or you go to like Dead of the Night, which we keep talking about Dead of the Night, but I think it's a great example for this.
Yeah.
Where you have like the Savage Impaler quest where you have to do these very specific tasks in order to get it. And that to me is just, I like having things to do, which is also kind of my first point there about the longer setups. And I've actually had this opinion for like a long time, like even before BO3, because I even have I proof of this. I have a video of me talking about Origins in like 2013 or something. And I loved Origins so much because it was the first time in Zombies where I felt like I never get to a point where there's nothing for me to do anymore.
Yeah.
Like before in BO1 in World of War, especially, like you get 2 guns that you like, you pack a punch them, you get your 4 perks. That's pretty much all you can do. You know, if there's an Easter egg, if you need 4 players for most of them, and even if they're, you know, Call the Dead solo Easter egg, it's like that's not that hard to do. There's really no side quests. There's really no like other things to mess around with. I guess you can kill George on Call the Dead. That's fun to do sometimes, but there's just not much to do. Then you move into Black Ops 2. They add a little bit more, but still it's not like too crazy. But once I got to Origins, it's like the first time where I don't get bored because there's just so many things I could do. Mm-hmm. And people consider that a problem because it's like a longer setup. You know, if you want to get the stabs, you have to do all these little things. If you want to upgrade them, you have to do a lot more. But to me, that's just extra stuff to mess around with. I don't get to the point where I have everything I need, and then now I'm just sitting there killing zombies, because once I get to that point where I have everything I need and I'm just sitting there killing zombies, it's not really that fun for that much longer after that.
I agree. Which is why, like I was saying before, that synergy between the artistic vision of the map, the secrets that there are to discover, and the tools in your toolkit, it all feeds together. So let's talk about the Liberty Falls, because yes, we have 2 round-based maps coming in Black Ops 6. We have tons of leaks. We've seen what the gameplay looks like from a multiplayer standpoint. We can kind of assume what it's going to feel like in BO4 or BO6. We've seen that map rewind, so we can kind of get an idea of what possibly Liberty Falls may look like. But we aren't sure. I mean, we have speculation that Terminus is going to be the more complicated map. What does this mean for Liberty Falls? Is it going to be more of a casual map? Is it going to be more of a I've heard it's going to be a Town remake or whatever, maybe inspired by Town. Do you want it to be that more casual experience where it's like the giant and maybe has a base level Easter egg? Or do you want it to have a quest and a boss fight? Like, what are you thinking? What's your gut telling you? And what would you like to see?
I mean, yeah, the more the better. So as long as it has enough content to consider it like a standard core Easter egg map, then I'll be happy with that. And then in terms of like complexity, I think I do want there to be a difference in it, because I do want there to be at least one map that's a bit easier, but I just don't want it to be like too easy though. Like I still want there to be depth to it, but maybe like have the power be a bit easier, you know, just a simple switch. Whereas maybe on Terminus, it could be generators or something, or pack a punch, maybe just have it be like 2 buttons like the Reisendrach, or and then on Terminus, it's maybe just a little harder, something like that, where like there's just slight differences. It's not like a major thing, but enough to the point where people who are more casual might be more likely to play Liberty Falls. And then the hardcore fans have Terminus. I don't want it to be like the Giant situation. Like, although I wouldn't have minded that to begin with, I think just the fact that this game's had 4 years of development time, I think it should have 2 full maps on launch. And I do think we're going to get to play Liberty Falls early, because there is these rumors of there being a Zombies like early access thing.
I don't think it's going to happen.
You don't think? I don't really want it to, honestly. Part of me doesn't want it to, because I kind of like that launch day feeling of playing everything for the first time. And they already have the multiplayer beta, and then presumably they're going to do the campaign early access like they've done the past couple of years.
That I believe.
So like doing a Zombies early access 2 just seems like too much in my opinion. But if they do it though, it'll probably be Liberty Falls as a map just like a week early or something. Which, like I said, I would prefer they just drop both of them launch day, so we have something to look forward to launch day. Because otherwise, it's just weird, because it's like we've already played the whole game then, even before it comes out, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, they're pretty much just like moving up launch day if you want to pay extra.
Yeah.
I'm okay with them showcasing some gameplay in COD Next, which I hear we're going to see some Zombies footage there. I hope that it's just Terminus. I hope that it's just the spawn room and maybe like 2 spaces outside of that. Maybe the Pack-a-Punch camo that they give them with a gobble gum. Like, I don't want to see the Pack-a-Punch machine. I don't want to see anything. I want it to be super minimal. I want to just just know surface level stuff, like kind of what they did with MWZ, showing people getting into tier 1 and tier 2, and then I think in the trailer it was tier 3. Or in the gameplay footage that they gave to creators, they were in tier 3. They showcased the Pack-a-Punch camos a little bit, and that was fine. It didn't get into any of the nitty gritty. It didn't reveal anything. One of the things that I actually was upset about during BO4, and I'm an idiot now, but at the time, I thought they revealed a lot. Like, they showcased a lot of bosses and stuff, but then I started looking back at the previous trailers in BO3, and they were revealing a lot of stuff in those trailers too. They always kind of reveal the wonder weapons and like certain bosses that are coming, and they tease it in such a way. And I really wish they would kind of hold back a little bit more. That way it's kind of all of a surprise, but I mean, it's marketing, so I kind of get it. But I'm very curious to see what the bosses are going to be like in Liberty Falls, or I mean in Terminus. I hope there's one in Liberty Falls. I would love a boss fight. I don't even think a quest has to be complicated. I think they can make it more like Cold War, like D Machine, where it's just simple and they're not doing a lot. But I definitely hope Terminus is difficult. It takes some time to solve. And Liberty Falls is more of that casual experience with just a little bit of a quest, maybe even to get the wonder weapon or something. I just feel like in this point in the Zombies zeitgeist, you can't just have a map where there's nothing on it.
Yeah.
Just unless it's Onslaught with the multiplayer maps or something, I just feel like you can't have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So it's just how I feel.
No, I agree. I think the interesting thing about them showing like more Zombies footage than they used to nowadays, especially because like MWZ, they usually don't show Zombies gameplay before launch, but they did that with MWZ, and they're going to do that this year. And I think honestly the reason for that is probably because of leaks, because they know leaks are going to happen. They're happening now with multiplayer, so they're thinking to themselves, okay, the Zombies gameplay is going to be leaked probably days, weeks before the game comes out. Let's just show it early, so the first footage people see is like official footage. Like, honestly, these recent leaks had me thinking that they might just release like an IGN 20-minute, multiplayer gameplay, like an HD, just so people can see that instead. Because this first look people are getting of multiplayer, like, although we're smart enough to realize that, like, okay, this isn't what the full game's going to look like on next gen consoles. Most people, they don't think like that. So it's just like they see this and they immediately go, oh my God, this looks like shit. But, when the Activision's, thinking about their marketing, they're going to have to be like, okay, do we want to show official gameplay now just to let them know that, okay, it looks much better than what that leaked gameplay is, because it's not, it's not what it's supposed to look like. So I do think that's why they're probably showing more stuff nowadays than they did before. Because even when I think of BO4, I don't know if you remember this, but BO4 gameplay leaked like a day or two early. before the game came out. And there was some visceral negative reactions towards it, mainly because of how bad the HUD looked. And I think that was really the only reason people were shitting on it, including myself, really. But obviously people don't like the perk system and all that other stuff. But I think if they showed early gameplay beforehand, they could have gotten a better reaction from the community and maybe even change things for launch instead of changing things after the fact. So as much as us seeing gameplay early could take away some of that magical feel of playing it for the first time, at least we can learn some things. If we hate how it looks or something, we can share that feedback, and then maybe they can change it before the game comes out. So it could be for the best in the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see it both ways. Like I said, I don't mind surface level stuff. It's just I want that sense of discovery where you're walking through the map and you open up like a door. Like for example, that first door you open up, well, the second door in Dreisendrach, you go out of the left side, and then you open up to the first dragon by double tap, and you're walking through the corridor, and you just like look up, and there's this giant, like, I want that feeling. So
agreed.
I hope that they can manage it. And I have a feeling Liberty Falls is going to be a sleeper hit. I do.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling, but I could be wrong.
I hope so.
All right. Well, just two last quick questions. Do you want a perk limit?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say yes, but if the game is just really solid to begin with, I could accept there not being a perk limit, but I do want there to be one with ways to get more, like perk limit on purchasing, but let me get all of them through a quest on every single map. Let me do all that. And also let me be able to remove perks so I can switch between, let's say 4 or 5 perks, if that's the limit. Let me switch between all of them throughout the game if I want to, freely, without having to down myself. And then let me get more through a quest, and we're good. But if there's no perk limit and the game is really solid, like, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I just think it is an important thing that Zombies is kind of lost in Cold War because it's so easy to get all the perks. So just find a way to make it harder to get all the perks, and I'll be happy.
Okay. Do you want shields back?
Yeah. But I think you could do shields and armor, though, which is interesting. Like, a lot of people say it has to be one or the other. I think there is a way to do both. Armor makes sense, like, practically speaking, but like shields are just so much cooler. They're so much more fun. So I want those back.
Do you want field upgrades or specialists?
Specialists, by far.
Okay.
Field upgrades were so, like, just, I don't know. They felt like they could just be gobblegums. You could just turn all those into gobblegums, to be honest. They're not, like, unique enough to be its own field upgrade.
Okay, those are all my questions. Well,
all right.
I appreciate you coming on the show. I will try to have this up ASAP, but thank you for your time. And thank you all for watching. And I will see you guys all in the next one.